On this episode, we're joined by Elias Haslanger, a powerhouse saxophonist, composer, and bandleader who's been a major force in the jazz world for 30 years. Based in Austin, Texas, Elias has shared the stage with legends like Ellis Marsalis, Maynard Ferguson, and the Temptations, while earning comparisons to John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins. From top charting albums to major performances across the US and Europe, his story is one of deep artistry, relentless dedication, and serious groove. And we are live. Elias, good to see you. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
I was fortunate enough to hear your band play at the Elephant Room in Austin in February of this year. You know, everyone says that's one of the best spots to go to. And I was so happy that I got a chance to hear a band like yours playing Duke Pearson and Wayne Shorter. It was, because there's so many dichotomies of jazz and you never know what you're going to get. But I was so happy to hear your band play. It was world class.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I've been playing down that basement in Austin for many, many years. It's one of my home bases. And I am very fortunate to be able to play with some of the best in town. And Austin has a pretty good jazz scene these days. So there's some good talent to surround yourself with. So I'm feeling fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to play there as much as I do.
So, when people think of Austin, it's always the live music capital of the world. So for younger jazz artists that maybe are finishing school and they may not necessarily want to go to New York, they may not want to go to the West Coast. Would you say Austin would be a good place to, if not start your career, definitely a place that they could live for a few years and gain some, professional experience?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in Austin. And as a kid, my parents were way into listening to music. I didn't have a television in my household. I just had my dad and my mom's record collection, and plus we had a really good uh, public radio station called KUT. And there was some really great DJs on that radio station, like Paul Ray and Jay Trachtenberg, and they would actually play jazz all the time. It's not as much now anymore, but so I kind of grew up immersed in music as a kid and took private lessons. I saw a bunch of live music. So it was one of those things that kind of was a natural progression for me personally. And I started playing right out of college. I went to the University of Texas, and ever since then, particularly the jazz scene has grown. But I would say for any young musician, like, don't kind of paint yourself into a corner of like, I only play this kind of music, because it won't really serve you well. I've always played all kinds of music from, reggae to pop to funk to Latin to jazz. Of course, the music I really love to play and try to focus on is jazz as much as I can. But I'd say for any young musician looking to start their career, Austin is a good place. It's still a good music scene, and growing. The jazz scene is definitely growing. We've got Joel Fromm now down at Texas State teaching there, and lots of great talent coming through. More clubs to play now, in addition to private parties and other club, just club scene that's going on.
Were
So
there
I
ever
think,
was there ever jazz on 7th Street? Because that's the one with all the bars. Which there was a lot of DJs, but was there ever a point where you could hear jazz in that on that part of town?
yeah, Sixth Street is the main
6th
strip,
Street,
right?
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sixth Street was like the original, like Austin's Bourbon Street almost, I'd call it. But a lot of cover bands. Back when I was coming up, in the 90s, there was a lot more original music going on Sixth Street, but that's kind of turned more of into a tourist trap and like cover bands and DJs mostly. So not really, but there's other areas, right? So the best clubs besides the Elephant Room is there's a place called Monk's Jazz, which is really cool. Parker Jazz is another place that plays, and then I play upstairs at the Continental Club Gallery every Monday night, and that place has some jazz on occasion. There's also some really cool music happening at the Continental Club and Boys Heart and Soul. And so, yeah, Sixth Street probably not the ideal place for musicians to get gigs, but there are plenty of other places in town that feature live music.
Are there opportunities that come your way? that you get called for things randomly still, recording sessions for artists who are in town who don't play jazz, or other types of styles that you maybe aren't less familiar with, but because you have that name you still get those phone calls as a sideman?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say the studio scene here is pretty good. As a horn player, horns with bands are, I'd say, more of a treat these days than it is a necessity. Like that's like if you have extra budget, you get the horns, right? And not a lot of people have extra budget. But that said, I still do get the call on occasion to go to the studios. There's plenty of studios in town and lots of music happening in those studios. So that is a thing. I wish I got called more for those type of sessions, but yeah, it still happens for sure.
Where can you still work in Texas, as far as places to go play? Do you go to Dallas, or do you go to Houston or San Antonio to work, or you mostly stay in your part of town?
I really don't have to go to those cities because I can play as much as I want in Austin.
That's
However,
awesome.
there are still very good musicians in all three of those cities. Texas has a very rich and deep history of incredible musicians coming out of all of those cities, right? Houston, of course, with HSPVA, and Dallas with Dallas Arts Magnet, is a great kind of fountain of incredible talent. A lot of them go on to New York or LA and do other things, but there's still incredible musicians in San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. I do occasionally get to those cities to play, but not as much as when I was much younger. And like I said, the scene here is so good that it's not really required for me to go there unless I would like to.
So and I've now that I've gotten my behind the scenes Austin jazz information from you. There are certain things I I wanted to ask you, because you grew up in this musical city. You know from an early age that you like music because it's you hear it in your home. And then you start playing professionally. Do you remember the first gig where you sort of said to yourself like, wow, okay, I really am doing this now. I'm a professional.
Yeah. Well, so I had my first pro gigs when I was in high school, and I always thought it was just a lot of fun, you know. Back when you're young and high school and college, like back then, Austin was a different place. It was a much more affordable place to live. So the money was almost secondary to just the good time and having the ability to be on stage with some of your friends to play music. So I considered myself doing it professionally from a very early age, like junior, senior year in high school, and started playing more in college. But I'd say probably, when I was in college or just out of college, I started playing with some of the more seasoned Austin jazz musicians like Tony Campisi, who was lead alto player with Stan Kenton, and another man by the name of Bobby Meyer, who is an incredible trumpet, saxophone, and pianist. Played with lots of great jazz artists, and a drummer named A.D. Mannion, who used to play with Joe Pass. And so when I started, and of course, my great mentor, who I played for with many years, is Dr. James Polk, who was the pianist and organ player and writer and arranger for Ray Charles for many years. And I started playing with those guys. That's when I felt like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. I think, and they were always super encouraging. One of the things I love about this music is that you have that kind of elder mentor young student relationship, that is not necessarily in a classroom, it's on the bandstand. And so when you're on the bandstand with these guys that got a lot of experience and they're telling you, hey, you really don't sound good. You need to go practice this, or you need to go practice that. Or even if they didn't tell you directly, just listening to them on stage and kind of how they played or how they carried themselves was huge. for me.
Or
And
if you're not
so
if you're not working, you are probably doing something not, wrong as well, right?
if you're not getting called, for sure, that's a big indication. But fortunately, I did have some of those mentors in my life at an early age that, kind of took me under their wing and then, kind of showed me, either directly or indirectly the right way or wrong way to do things, how to learn things, how to play, how to listen. So yeah, I feel fortunate in that regard that I had some of these mentors, and then I felt like when I started playing with them, that was like, okay, this is something I can do, not just that I like, but that I can pursue.
And you've been doing this for such a long time, and as you're talking about it, you could still hear the passion and dedication in just everything you're saying. But what keeps you inspired just to keep pushing, after decades in this music? Because there are the challenges that come with it as well. We don't have to go into those, but what keeps you inspired these days?
Yeah, man, I think it always has been and always will be for me. Like when I listen to this music, and I'm specifically speaking of this great, Black American art form that is called jazz, and jazz can be a lightning rod as a term, but you know, what I consider to be this music, from Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Coltrane, all of those incredible artists. When I go back and listen to that music, it still sounds fresh and inspiring to me. And there's always something new that I can learn from it. And there's always something new that I hear in the music. No matter how many times that I listen to it, there's always something there that you kind of continue to peel back the onion, that there's like it gets deeper and deeper and it means more and more to me over the years. So like even though I've listened to, a record like Crescent by Coltrane, thousands of times, it never gets old. And there's always something there in McCoy's comping or Elvin's drumming that is just super inspiring to me. So to me, it's this lifelong journey to try to find my own voice, but using kind of this fertile history as the place where I'm constantly, seeking information to help me improve and get closer to the sound that I'm hearing in my mind. And that's always changing too. So it's super fun because, no matter how much you do it, there's my feeling is there's always more to do. So that's kind of what keeps me going.
Definitely. And, I've been playing this music for about 20 years. And it's like, even to these days, like even certain little things, like just the way I look at the instrument visually, like looking at, I'm, guitarist, looking at the neck of the
Yeah.
guitar, even the way I just look, what these things are still coming to me these days. Do you still have stuff like that in terms of your connection with your instrument? Like little things like, oh, I wish I approached it like this,
Well,
some
yeah.
time ago, or is not so much?
No, for sure. The saxophone is a challenging instrument to play. And you know, every day that I pull it out and try to practice, I feel like, what's that Dizzy Gillespie used to say? Some days you win, and most of the other days the horn wins.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
agree.
there's those days where you feel like everything's flowing and your ideas are going and your technique is happening, and then there's other days where it's just not happening at all. So the challenge is, to practice so that you feel like, the instrument is simply an extension of your, body and mind and soul. And so the technique is not, simply for technique's sake, but it's to hopefully help you express yourself the way that you're hearing and feeling at that moment. So yeah, there's always things with my left hand and the altissimo and the reed and the mouthpiece and the setup of the instrument that I'm constantly tinkering with, like many saxophone players. But it is a challenge, and that's one of those challenges that you kind of look forward to every day to see how can I get a little bit better.
If you have you, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that frustration playing live as well, something just not working for whatever reason. What's your advice to musicians who they're on a gig And for whatever reason, like nothing is just coming out the way you hear it. It could be the room, it could be it's too loud in there, it could just be the way you're feeling personally. But it's just like it just feels like it's just such a challenge and you can't do it. Like, do you have any words of encouragement or things you've thought about in those moments that you could share?
Yeah, nothing lasts forever, right? So, one of the things that I love about playing music is that you're in the moment, that moment, and it's gone. So if it's a bad gig, it'll be over soon and you can look forward to the next gig. If it's a good gig, you never want it to end, but it's going to be over soon too. So, you know, just try, that's my challenge to me, to myself and to the band that I play with all the time is like, how can you make the most of this moment every single time that you're on stage, right? Because it is a precious gift. You cannot take it for granted. You don't know the next time you're going to be able to play. And think about the people that are in the audience that are there to hopefully be moved by your music, right? Like that would be a huge disservice to them if you did not give it your best, even in a difficult situation, right? Because a lot of the times the audience doesn't know that you're struggling with this or that, or the sound is bad or that. They just see you. And then after the gig, if you start instantly complaining to them about this or that, then they're getting a bad impression whereas normally probably 90% of the times they're just like, "Oh, that was great. I really loved hearing you play." So why spoil it for them, you know? So, I usually say keep those things to yourself. If it's something that's within a band dynamic that you can discuss with the band at a later time at a rehearsal or what have you, like, hey, you were playing too much at this time, or why don't you think about playing less here, or like, hey, the drums got a little bit too loud, or whatever it is, saxophone didn't execute the melody correctly. That's what rehearsal's for, right? Sometimes if you're in a live band situation and the sound is bad, well, that's not much you can do unless you can talk to the sound person on a break or something and say, hey, the monitors are bad or what have you. But yeah, every live gig is a new opportunity for making it great and then hopefully skating through the adversity if there ever is some. Hopefully you try to minimize that as much as possible. But of course, it happens.
Yeah, I like how you said you're like if it's a bad gig, don't worry, it'll be over soon and you can look forward to the next one. I like I like that mindset a lot.
For sure. I mean, and we've all been there, right? Whether the audience is not happening or the sound is not happening, or maybe the band that, you happen to assemble is just not grooving for some reason. I mean, that happens. Bass players and drummers don't always hook up. And it's no fault of either of theirs. They just don't hear the time in the same place, right? But you just try to make the most of it and then, learn if there's something to be learned from it to try to make it better the next time.
So as far as talk to me a little bit about a day in the life. What's going on the agenda for you, this week as a professional musician?
Busy week this week. I've got a gig tonight at the Continental Club Gallery, which I have every Monday night from 8:30 to 10 with my band called Church on Monday, which is organ, bass, drums, guitar, and sax. And the reference is the Stanley Turntine's record called Hustlin', which is one of my favorite kind of soul jazz, if you want to call it, if you want to put a term to it, but it's kind of got hard bop with the organ. I love the vibe and the feel. So that's every Monday. And then I have a Monk's Jazz gig on Friday night, and we're doing a tribute to Horace Silver. And I've got a great quintet for that. We're going to play some of his music, and we're going to tell stories about Horace and how important he was. And then Saturday night, I am playing at the Elephant Room, the place you heard me, with another great quintet, and we'll do a combination of my original music with some classics, like what you heard, similar vibe there. So
Yeah,
that's that.
I wish I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to say hello. Me and my wife were like bouncing. We were only in Austin for 2 days. We were bouncing around, like going from
Next
place to
time,
place,
next time, my friend, next time, please come say hi, and bring your axe.
So yes, I would definitely love to. So you're playing at these three great clubs this week. That sounds like a fun week.
Gonna be a fun week. It's gonna be a fun week. It's not rare. That week is not uncommon. I'm happy to say. With a wife and kids, it can get busy, but I'd rather it be busy than the alternative, right? I
So you've got these three gigs this week. Do you also teach as well?
don't teach, but what I do for money, right? What I tell people is I wake up in the morning and I go to bed. I'm a saxophone band leader and composer. But during the day for my living is I work actually as a marketing and sales executive for a company called National Instruments. And so I spend, it's a trade-off, but I do spend a fair amount of my days working at a corporation. But I have done that for many years, and it's a good balance for me, right? Because I have two, one in college, one in high school, about to go to college, and have a successful family life, which is super important to me. My wife and I have been married for 30 years, and I was on the road with Maynard Ferguson, and I had kind of an epiphany, like I was married, and my wife's a great cook and a beautiful lady, and I was on the road with all these guys. And we stopped at Burger King 3 times in one day because the bus
Oh
driver
my
wanted
God.
because the bus driver wanted to. And so the third time we stopped there, I said, I got to have a salad. And they served me like, I don't know, a couple of slices of romaine lettuce and a packet of French dressing. And that's what I had for dinner that night. And I was like, man, I'm not sure this is what I'm cut out to do for the rest of my life. I'd rather be at home with my wife eating her great homemade pasta. And so when I got off the road with Maynard, my wife and I both had this conversation. We wanted to have kids. This was before we had kids. We were living in New York City and Brooklyn at the time. And we both committed to ourselves. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do something else to make money for our family, but we're still going to do music. And we both have done that. Thankfully, it was our journey, our path. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but for our family and the two of us together, like she's a musician. We met at music school at UT. She's a brilliant singer-songwriter. Her name's Amy Atchley, and she's got lots of CDs out. She still plays a lot. And so we still do that, and it's a priority for us. But we also love our family union, and we want to take care of our kids and each other. So that's kind of the deal we made for ourselves.
No, I think you're totally right. I think it's
Yeah.
100%. I think it's smart, and I have the most tremendous amount of respect for anyone who knows they have to provide for their family, but at the same time is creating their art on the highest level. So I mean, I think it's wonderful. But
It,
Elias, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you today, and just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. Really, really appreciate it.
oh, well, we're just scratching the surface, my friend, but thank you so much for
We'll
having me.
do
It
it
was a
again. We
pleasure to
could do it
speak with
again.
you.
We'll do it
Yeah,
again.
let's do it again. All right.
100%.